Two officers walked into the ER like they'd been briefed on a threat, not a patient. Their eyes swept the waiting room. Their posture said they weren't here to ask questions. They were here to take control. Across the room, a teenage boy sat still on a bench near the fire extinguisher, his wrist wrapped in a crooked makeshift bandage. One sneaker untied, gym bag slouched at his feet. He didn't look up. The doctor who called them stood in the corner, arms crossed, unmoved. She didn't blink. The nurse beside her adjusted her clipboard like it weighed too much. And just when the officers took one step closer toward the boy, the glass doors slid open. A woman in a fitted navy suit walked in. Her heels hit the tile like punctuation marks. Calm, cold, controlled. And that's when the energy in the room shifted. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I've got shoutouts lined up for the next story. And trust me, you'll want to hear yours. Jaden Carter hadn't planned on ending his afternoon in the emergency room. His biology final was the next morning. His plan was to get home, review cell structure, and maybe ice his wrist from that rough layup during practice. But by dinner, the swelling had doubled, and the dull ache had turned sharp. Coach told him to get it looked at. Jaden nodded, called no one. He knew his mom was working late, and he wasn't about to drag her out for something he could handle himself. So he did what any responsible 16-year-old would do. Walked himself into Lakeview General's wet, still drying on his collar. Backpack over one shoulder, school ID in hand. No noise, no attitude. Just a quiet kid trying to do the right thing. But sometimes the right thing isn't enough. He stepped up to the check-in window. The woman behind the glass barely glanced up. Name? Jaden Carter. She typed. Emergency? My wrist. From practice. It really hurts. She handed him a clipboard. Didn't ask another question. They'll call you. That was 47 minutes ago. He'd watched a toddler with a scraped knee get taken in. Then a man with chest tightness. Then someone walked in 10 minutes after him with a cough. Jaden sat, his wrist pulsing in pain, his fingers starting to tingle. He looked over at the nurse's station. One nurse met his eyes, then looked back down. The clock above the hallway doors ticked louder with each second. And then he noticed her. Dr. Karen Whitmore. White coat buttoned to the collar, clipboard pressed to her chest like a shield. She wasn't reading charts. She wasn't evaluating symptoms. She was staring. Not the way doctors stare. The way security guards do like they're waiting for a reason to step in. She leaned over to a nearby nurse, said something under her breath. The nurse peeked at Jaden, nodded. No one moved. Jaden shifted in his seat, pulled out his phone, and texted. Still waiting. Wrist hurts bad. No reply. He stood up, careful, slow, walked toward the desk. He didn't raise his voice, didn't slap the counter. He just said, "Excuse me. I've been waiting a while. My wrist is getting worse. Could someone please take a look?" The nurse opened her mouth, but Dr. Whitmore's voice cut through first. "Sir, you need to sit down. You're causing a disturbance." Jaden paused, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm just asking. You're not next in line. You'll be seen when we're ready. Now step back." He stepped back. Slowly. His heart had started beating faster than the pain in his wrist. That's when he heard her say it. Not loudly, but just loud enough for security to catch. Keep an eye on him. Might be one of those walk-ins looking for trouble. Jaden sat back down, his injured wrist now resting in his lap like it didn't belong to him anymore. He flexed his fingers, slow, careful. The tingling was worse now. He checked the clock again. 51 minutes. He stood up once more, same calm posture, same tone of voice, and walked toward the desk. "Sorry to ask again, but it's getting worse. Is there anyone who can check it? Or just tell me how much longer?" The nurse opened her mouth to speak, but again Dr. Whitmore's voice cut her off. "You need to sit down. You're being disruptive." Her tone wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to draw attention from the patient with the toddler. A few heads turned. One nurse froze mid-step. Jaden held up both hands, slightly wrist still aching. "I'm just trying to call my mom, that's all." He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Dr. Whitmore's voice climbed. "Put the phone down, now." Jaden stopped, didn't press anything, just held it in his palm like it might protect him. She turned her head towards security. "I have an aggressive minor, unaccompanied, possibly casing the area. Can we get someone up here?" The security guard leaned into the nurse at the desk and whispered, "Do we bring in PD?" The nurse hesitated, looked over at Jaden. His hands were still up, his phone screen still black. Dr. Whitmore didn't wait. "It's for everyone's safety." Jaden's throat tightened. He looked between the nurse and the guard. Am I being arrested?" No one answered. His breathing sped up. His shoulders stiffened. His body stayed frozen, but his hand trembled just slightly. The phone shook in his grip. A woman near the vending machine pulled her daughter a little closer. A nurse standing by the hallway didn't move, but her eyes said everything: regret, discomfort, the kind of guilt you feel when you know you should say something but saying something might cost you. A teenage boy walked in for a wrist injury. He now had a security alert, police on the way, and an entire waiting room looking at him like he'd done something. And still, he hadn't even been asked his name by a doctor. The sound of police radios crackled before the doors even opened. 2 officers stepped in calm, composed, deliberate. Not rushing, but not wasting time either. One wore mirrored shades inside. The other had a clipboard and a badge clipped high on his vest. They walked with synchronized confidence, like they'd done this 100 times and already decided how it would go. They scanned the waiting room. The doctor nodded toward Jaden without saying a word. That was enough. They split on, moved left, the other right stopping on either side of him. Jaden didn't stand, didn't speak, just looked up at them slowly, confusion painted across his face. One officer leaned forward. "You match a description we received. Stand up, please." Jaden blinked. "What? 2 don't understand. I just came here for my wrist. I just want to call my mom." The officer didn't repeat himself, just reached down and gently touched Jaden's elbow, firm enough to move him, soft enough to pretend it wasn't force. Jaden stood, slowly, his backpack slumped to the floor. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't reach for it. He just looked at the officer, then looked beyond him, into the lobby, into the crowd of faces pretending not to watch. One woman didn't pretend. She was filming. Phone held low by her purse, barely tilted, but the red record light was blinking. Her lips were tight. Her finger didn't move. Jaden didn't fight, didn't flinch, just whispered, to no one in particular. "She told me to wait. She said she was coming." And then, like something out of a movie, the air changed. The automatic doors opened with a quiet hiss. "If that Jaden is your son, your brother, your nephew, what would you have done? Let's talk in the comments. I actually read them. And don't just keep this to yourself. Share it with someone who still doesn't understand why stories like this matter. It might open their eyes." A woman walked in. Dark navy heels clicking against the tile. Her coat flared with every step, perfectly pressed, not a crease out of place. She didn't speak. She didn't rush. She just walked. Every step echoed. A nurse, halfway down the hallway, paused. Security glanced up, but said nothing. Even Dr. Whitmore, arms still folded, shifted slightly in place. The woman's eyes never wavered. She didn't look left or right. She didn't need to. She was walking toward one person. Jaden saw her. His body didn't move, but something in his chest relaxed. Her pace didn't change. Her face didn't twitch. But her eyes, they were locked on her son. The woman stopped just a few feet from her son, not close enough to touch him, close enough to make everyone else uncomfortable. Her eyes swept the officers like she was identifying a misplaced file. Then she turned to Jaden, still standing, still confused, still trying not to cry in front of strangers. She spoke softly. "Are you okay?" Jaden swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "I didn't do anything, Mom." She nodded once. Then slowly, deliberately, reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out a badge. Not a police badge, not a hospital ID. A laminated gold seal with bold black print. "I'm Dr. Celeste Lennox. I'm the state medical director. And that's my son you're surrounding." The silence was instant. The officer who'd been holding Jaden's elbow let go like it burned. He stepped back, cleared his throat, didn't make eye contact. Dr. Whitmore blinked. Her jaw moved before her voice caught up. I didn't realize he was with anyone. He didn't mention." Dr. Lennox raised a hand, not to silence her, to dismiss her. "He shouldn't have needed to. He's a minor with a visible injury. You profiled him, you escalated, and you jeopardized his safety because you saw his skin before you saw his chart." Whitmore opened her mouth again, but nothing useful came out. Dr. Lennox turned back to her son, crouched slightly, and gently lifted his wrist. Her touch was calm, clinical, practiced. She pressed along the edge of the swelling and felt the heat beneath. She didn't say a word. Her face said everything. She looked up once more this time, not at Whitmore, not at the police, but at the entire room. At the nurse behind the counter. At the security guard who'd radioed backup. At the receptionist pretending to type. And finally, back at Dr. Whitmore. "You didn't fail as a doctor. You failed as a human being." One nurse, standing near the supply cart, turned away and wiped her eyes. From the back of the waiting room, someone whispered under their breath, but loud enough to carry. "That's the state director?" The video kept recording. The moment had already gone viral and none of them knew it yet. By morning, the video had already crossed state lines. The headline wrote itself. "Racist doctor calls cops on black teen unaware. His mom is the state medical director." The clip was barely 90 seconds. Grainy, shaky. But it didn't need perfect resolution. The audio was clear enough to capture the officer's pause, the crowd's silence, and that single, clipped line from the woman in heels. "Take your hands off my son." It lit a match. Comment sections turned into courtrooms. Some people demanded Whitmore be fired on the spot. Others deflected. Maybe he acted suspicious. Or protocols are protocols. But the moment that stuck was the one where Dr. Lennox didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Lakeview General released a statement the following day, polished, carefully worded. "We regret the incident involving one of our physicians and a minor. We are committed to fostering an environment of inclusion, safety, and equal care for all. No mention of race, no mention of police. Just incident." Dr. Whitmore was placed on administrative leave, quietly. No press release. No formal disciplinary record yet. But the damage was already done. A week later, Dr. Celeste Lennox stood behind a podium in front of the State Health Board. Microphones pointed from every direction. Flashbulbs popped as she cleared her throat. She didn't read from a script. She looked straight into the cameras and said, "This isn't about my title. It's about the fact that someone like my son, polite, respectful, hurt, was seen as a threat, and that it took someone like me, with a badge and a name, to undo that assumption." She paused, let it hang, then walked away without taking questions. Jaden said little in the days that followed. His mom took him to physical therapy. The swelling had gone down, but he still wore a soft brace. He didn't complain. Inside the outpatient wing, they were met with warmer smiles. Not loud apologies, but quiet adjustments. A nurse he recognized from the ER greeted him. The same one who had looked away. She didn't say sorry. But this time, she asked him how his wrist waist-wise. Dr. Lennox sat in the corner, silent, watching her son move through the exercises, watching the nurse treat him like he mattered, like he was visible. Jaden didn't say much that day. He didn't need to. The weight of everything that had happened still sat in the room with them, even as the world outside moved on. But inside that building, that hospital that nearly swallowed him, he stood taller now. Not because he fought back, but because someone saw him when it counted, and because her presence said what the room refused to admit. He belongs here too. Later, the sky outside turned the color of old denim. The streets glowed under street lamps. Dr. Lennox drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting near her son's brace on the center console. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Jaden looked out the window. The buildings blurred. His breath fogged the glass. Every now and then, she glanced over just to check. Just to make sure. No one raised a voice. No one needed to. Because silence, when earned, can be louder than anything. Assumptions are the deadliest part of a diagnosis. If this story hit you in the chest, if it makes you pause, then don't scroll past. This is Golden Stories, and every day we drop stories that spark emotion, challenge assumptions, and leave you thinking long after the video ends. So if you're not subscribed yet, you're missing out. Hit that button, join the community. Because the next story, it's even louder.